Hello. I feel like today is going to be an exciting podcast to share with you. I have really enjoyed doing these solo podcasts and keeping you up to date with things that are happening in my life. And the title of this podcast, if I do decide to call it, is going to give away what happened in the end. It is about that time I bought a horse, which was only 10 days ago that I decided to buy a horse. And I wanted to take you through the thought processes and the reasons behind why I made this purchase. And if you do know me, you'll probably know that I am very fast at making decisions, but they always come from a very grounded place. So my love for horses started when I was younger. My dad used to take me and my sister riding regularly. And I wasn't a very good rider. I just realized the other day how poorly I used to ride. I remember often ending up on the horse's neck or on the ground. And I must have started when I was really little because I always rode little Shetland ponies and what I would say were very shitty and annoying ponies to ride that would kind of buck whenever you wanted to do something with them. So I wasn't the most confident child or teenager on a horse or a pony. And one of my dreams was to always be able to ride a horse and canter around. I never got to experience the canter, and my sister always got to go on the bigger horses. And for some reason, we just stopped riding, and I never got to ride a horse. So it was always on the back of my mind, and I'm now in my late 30s. And a friend of mine always said that we would go horse riding. Now, I will mention this friend's name. It is the beautiful, wonderful Kate Callahan, who is no longer with us anymore. And she is the very first Pain Story interview that I did on my podcast. But we always talked about going horse riding together and that we would make it happen. And we never made it happen. We never got the opportunity, and I will never get an opportunity to ride with her. And even after realizing this, it still took me a couple of years to organize to go for a horse ride. So hopefully this podcast is going to speak to many different elements that play out in your life. But basically, I wasn't making time for something that I desired to do, that I love to do, that wasn't necessary to live life, but I just wanted to do it. I wasn't making the time. Other things were always taking priority. I was busying myself in different areas of work. So when I still had the clinic, I decided to book us all in for a Christmas party where we would go on a horse trek. And it was so much fun. And I finally got to canter on the straight, canter up the hill, and it just felt so good. And I remember talking to the lady organizing and finding out, how much will it cost me if I'm going to come every week? And she was willing to cut a deal, but I never did it. And I think another couple of years went by. And more, particularly in this last year, I have been thinking about what is it that I want to do for myself? And how do I want to create what looks like balance for me in my life? And what is the life that I desire to live, and then have everything else work around it? Now, with every business that I've started, when I had the clinic, other things, and even in the online space, I loved spending time in it and getting that foundation set up. But I have also set it up in a way where it creates space and freedom for me longer term. And I definitely have more space and time for myself now than I did back in the day. But I still had little bits of space and time back then too. But time is a an unusual concept that really only humans abide by. Because now having this horse, I've realized how I make time for things that I really love and that I'm really passionate about. So my time was prioritized towards my business, which I absolutely loved back then. But the long-term vision is to create more space and time to do the things that I enjoy. So fast forwarding the last couple of years, I ended up celebrating the sale of my clinic, my business, in December 2021 by treating myself to go to a friend's retreat. Now, this is something that I have had to learn, that when something's going good, especially when it's required my effort and my work, is to reward myself and allow myself to receive in other ways, not just give out the energy. So it's about the law of giving and receiving. So I decided to go on this retreat. It wasn't an easy decision because it's like, oh, should I really do this? Should I be saving up because now all my eggs are in one basket? But I decided I'm going to do this. And when we have time and space, we get clearer about what it is we desire. And it was in this space that I realized that I had been putting a lot of things off and a lot of things that I wanted to do for myself. So prior to this, one thing that I really wanted to do was to be able to get regular massages. And I remember thinking that having massages once a month felt like such a luxury. Now, if you're in any of my groups, I share openly that there was a period of time that I had weekly massages, but they were so amazing to nourish me and nurture me and not have to go when I was feeling tight or when I felt like I needed it. So that ability to receive, even though I didn't feel like I needed it. And so building this foundation with massages has just allowed me to take the leap with receiving in other ways. And as I said, the law of giving and receiving is that when you give out, you receive, but you also have to have the ability to receive to be able to give more. And it's something that I have used when, say, I'm putting a program out there, like release or my practitioner training or whatever, is that there is a lot of effort involved in putting myself out there on social media, telling you what's available. And usually I have a window of 2 or 3 weeks when I do this. And to compensate for that, because everything has an opposite, I max out on the receiving. So I have been known to get massages more than once a week when things are a little busier. And that's how I used to operate when I was an osteopath, is that we would have people that were super busy at different times of the year. And with anyone, my advice is when you get busy, up your self-care, max out your self-care where you can receive, because you're operating at a really high level for a period of days, weeks, or months. So I went to this retreat and I realized I had been talking for ages about going horse riding and doing it for the joy and the pleasure of it. And also how I just am not a motivated exerciser. I'm not a gym fan. So talking about getting a personal trainer, talking about getting our cleaner to come in a little bit more regularly. And I made a decision that 2022 was going to be the year of spaciousness, yet fully expressing myself. And I see that if I can embrace the full expression of myself, I will be able to create more spaciousness. The two of them go hand in hand. I need space to be able to express as well. But rather than starting at the start of 2022 on the 1st of January, I decided to start then and there. And this was very early December. And I am one to take action, make a decision, make it happen. I think the other thing I wanted to do was invest in cryptocurrency, and they were all things that I just didn't really know how to do. But I think after that weekend, I booked in to go horse riding twice that week. I found a personal trainer and booked them in for 12 sessions. And I ended up investing in cryptocurrency as well. And again, if you've heard me speak on some of my groups or in my free spaces, is that the thought of something is very different to the actual doing of it. And sometimes we waste so much energy of thinking about what we want to do and how it's going to look and what other people are going to think of us, rather than actually just going and doing the thing and finding out for ourselves. So ever since I was quite young, I remember as a teenager, is that I just didn't want to fill my brain space with unnecessary thoughts. So it's like, right, Jen, you've been thinking about this long enough, just go and do it and find out, because you might hate having a personal trainer. You might hate doing the horse riding, and you can move on from it and focus on something else. And then the cryptocurrency, that came down to having enough money that it wasn't going to be life or death if I lost it in that risky market. Anyway, of course, as I jump on live and just start talking, all of these different tangents start to appear, and I've got to remember to focus. We're here to talk about that time that I bought a horse. But as I said, there's going to be many lessons in here for you. So basically, I acted on what I desired. And I actually forgot that at the very beginning of 2021, I thought I would just put together a vision board. And it's a pretty sparse looking vision board. And I'm not really into them. Well, I wasn't really into them. My husband does them, and he has some crazy stuff on there that has landed over and over again. But being a human design manifesting generator, I like to stick my finger in many pies. And I did a vision board out of FOMO. And I put 2 horse pictures on there because that was a dream. I didn't fully know that it was going to end up with me owning a horse. It was definitely me riding a horse. But anyway, that's why, you know, you don't have to be 100% clear of how things are going to work out, because the universe can throw you the most amazing things on your journey as you walk the path. So I had this vision board, and for a long time I was like, vision board, and I'd have it turned around. It would actually face the wall. So where are we? That was December, and I'm talking to you 31st of March, end of March 2022. I started horse riding in December. Thank goodness I did not wait until the start of January, because on the 30th of December 2021, I fell off my new bike, actually, my new electric bike, in a ditch, and I broke my right ankle. And I'm still yet to share more about what's landing about this ankle break, because little spoiler alert, I have a non-union fracture, meaning that the 2 ends of the bones have not come together, yet I have not experienced any pain. So I'm currently navigating that at the moment. So I took 5 weeks off, really enjoyed that time. Actually, I was coached by one of my coaches I'm working with at the moment, Melanie and Leah, and I decided to go up first and find out what coaching I could receive. And what was interesting that came through is she said to me, what if your right ankle is about your ability to receive pleasure? And now a lot of people think pleasure is sexual intimacy. That is part of it, but also just enjoying the pleasures and receiving the pleasures in life and doing the things that bring you pleasure and joy. And so this is something that I am exploring to the max, especially with my ankle not quite healing. And the other thing that she asked me was, what do you desire? And now I've worked with several coaches, not just Melanie, and she asked me, what do you desire? And especially since I landed in the online space, things have been coming to me thick and fast, and it's been incredible. And I often coach people around, it is a thing to hold the energy of when all the good stuff comes in, because it can be pretty full on, and it can be as full on as the challenges, but you won't understand that until you experience it. And I have been able to experience, receive, buy a lot of things on my wish list. And she said, well, what do you desire? And I said a couple of things. And I also said, but I don't really need them. So I was shaded with a little bit of guilt. It's like, I've got all these amazing things. I'm living a really good life. But I don't really need any of them. And I don't really need more, to be honest. And so she probed a little bit more and said, but if you could have more, what is it that you would really desire? And I sheepishly said, well, I got back into horse riding and I would so love a horse. We actually don't have our own house that we live in at the moment, but a house has never been a big deal to me. And I said, and maybe a house. But honestly, who needs a horse? Maybe a house, but you can always rent them. We rent our house. But who needs a horse? And I just went on, focused on healing my ankle, doing my work and all that kind of stuff. So that was middle of January. And then I got back into the horse riding and I started going 3 times a week. And I only did this for a couple of weeks, but I was like, this is pretty cool. But gosh, I'm spending a lot of money on going on riding lessons. And it's beautiful where I go. We go through this winery and down to the lake. And it's just been amazing going on these morning rides. And I just have a smile on my face. And whenever I'm going out with my horse teacher, Katie, we're just like, this is just so good. I could sit on this horse and I could do this all day long. It just makes me buzz. It is just so fun. And you might have something else that you do. You might not like horses, but just think about what is it that you love to do that maybe you are doing, but especially what are the things that bring you that feeling that you are not doing right now. So I started going horse riding and then I thought, okay, I know that a horse is on my wish list. If it comes in 5-10 years, that's fine. But things tend to happen pretty fast in my world. So knowing that a desire and a thought is one thing, sharing it is the next level, taking action towards receiving that desire or bringing it closer to your life or into your life is the next steps. So I have really, really learned, and I want to share with you that thoughts are one thing, taking action is the next thing. And remember, you've got to try it because it may not be as good as you thought it was in your head. So I thought, well, if I'm going to get the right horse and not do things out of desperation, I should start inquiring now. Even though I honestly feel like a fresh, very green newbie on the horse. As I said, I did not ride well at all when I was younger. I couldn't remember a bunch of stuff and I was still building my confidence on a horse, going on these tricks and doing lessons, which has its own fears and anxieties in itself. So I booked in to do lots of one-to-ones because I just wanted to get more confident before I got myself into a group. So I spoke to the lady where who owns the place where I get lessons, and I said, I'm thinking about getting a horse. What kind do you reckon I should look for? And she was great. She said, we'll come out and have a look. We'll ask questions. They might not be close by, but yeah, we'll totally help you find one. Just know it could take 1 or 2 years. And I was like, yeah, no, all good. I just thought I better ask so I know the process. I don't really know what I'm in for. And yeah, 1-2 years, that's all good. And I went home and I told my husband, I was like, I started the process of like looking for a horse. So I could pick these horses online. I could send them to her and see what she thought based on the description. And then I don't think it was even a week later. Oh no, sorry. So I told my husband, Gav, and he goes, great, you're going to have a horse in 3 weeks. I just kind of laughed. I was like, no, I'm going to look for the right one. And I went for a lesson about 5 days later and I said, well, actually I had Googled what are the mistakes people make buying a first horse, and one of them is going for a color. However, I thought, well, if I go for an unusual color, I'm attracted to things that aren't that common, like rare indoor plants, and I have a dapple sausage dog. They're not that common. I thought, well, this is going to make the process easier if I do look for ones that I like the look of and then filter out from there, knowing that a lot of people make bad decisions based on the color of the horse. Bear in mind, I've only owned this horse for 10 days. It's actually still living at someone else's place. That this could all unravel and I could be completely wrong, but I think this is good to share in the moment and let's see how it plays out. So I was like, okay, don't choose based on the color of a horse, but this is going to make it easier. Otherwise, I'm looking at 200 different horses all the time instead of like 6. And I just showed the lady 5 days later. I said, what do you reckon about this one? It just came up last night. She said, well, you better call them now because that one's going to get snapped up pretty quickly. So I actually ended up going down that afternoon, and I thought, this is just so aligned. This horse only lives an hour away. It's a beautiful colored horse, and let's go and find out. And there had been a lot of inquiries on this horse. So I went to check it out thinking, gosh, I was told that it's going to take me 1 or 2 years. I brought another experienced rider with me to ride the horse as well as me to get their opinion. This horse hadn't actually been ridden for a couple of months. We didn't really know a lot of history about it. And yeah, probably not the horse people would recommend if you want to build your confidence on. Not that she's like crazy or anything like that, but she needs work. And it was just the most beautiful personality horse, plus a real beauty anyway. If you look at on my social media, you'll probably see a picture of her. She's called a Dapple Buckskin. So she's got light skin, black legs, and she's got spots, which are dapples, and a dark mane. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's just so beautiful, but don't go for the color. Don't go for the color. But her personality was just so nice and just so friendly. And yeah, I just couldn't stop thinking about it, thinking, oh gosh, am I getting just caught up in the excitement of like the fact that there's this horse? This is the first horse I've looked at. But I know enough that I can trust my gut and that I have an ability to make quick decisions. Now, some of this was pressure of so many people want to come and look at this horse that it might even get snapped up like a house where people aren't even looking at them before they buy them down here. But I had a little bit of time. I had like overnight to sit on it. I went back the next day, drove an hour to go and see this horse, went for a little ride, and was like, I'm 95% sure I want to take this horse. I know that it's probably not the one that I was looking for in terms of how experienced it is, but I'm willing to put the work in. At first I thought, oh, I'll buy a horse and other people can ride it if they want to and blah, blah, blah. But then when I met this horse and realized all the other amazing things that were available in terms of building a relationship with a horse, I was like, oh, I'm thinking a little bit differently about this now. And you know, because I'm all about sharing, everyone can ride the horse. But I've learned a lot in the last 10 days. And yeah, so the other reason, apart from just like wanting to be able to ride a horse when I was younger, go cantering and all sorts of things, is that I've also been really attracted to the relationship that you can build with animals. And like my little sausage dog, Lola, and also the relationship you can build with a horse. And doing all of the mind, body, psychosomatics, emotional regulation, nervous system regulation work, trauma release that I do, is that I love teaching people how to get that regulated nervous system. This is not to say that my nervous system doesn't peak out sometimes. It does, but I know that it has the ability to come back. And what I love with the work I do is that I hear some horrible stuff. I hear some pretty full-on stuff, but my nervous system doesn't react, and it's able to hold a safe space for people to be able to express more and more of that emotion and stuff that they've suppressed. And I'm able to hold space for people when all of the crazy stuff starts to shift in their body, physically, physiologically, and emotionally. So it felt like, okay, would be really interesting. You know, dogs can pick up on your moods and how you're feeling. Horses definitely can. Horses are naturally fight-flight animals, so they're kind of wired to run all the time. Is that this really felt like the next level to challenge myself, not for me personally, but also this strong desire to build a relationship with a pretty intimidating animal. And build my confidence around it and build that connection, knowing that a horse will feed off my energy and I will feed off it as well, but it really relies on me to stay emotionally regulated. So that's a bit more of the background. You know, it wasn't just about, yay, let's go buy a horse and let's let things circulate around. Is that the thought process was there for a long time, but it became intensely focused for a period of time. And then things started to land. And I really believe that this process flowed. And I also asked the lady who was selling this horse on behalf, you know, well, what do you think? Do you have any concerns selling this horse to me? Because we do not have a paddock in our backyard. I would keep the horse at the livery at the equestrian centre, and she'd have her space. And, you know, I would go down and look after her, but if needed, there are other people there as well. And also knowing that I've got this new kind of horse that's not that experienced, is that I needed help working her and training her. But what I love is that the lovely Sam who sold me this horse, she said, no, I think, you know, it feels good, but go and have a chat, go and work it out, no hard feelings. She spent so much time with me, like 5 hours over 2 days. I was like, man, do you spend this much time with everyone who wants to look at this horse? Because that's a lot of time out of your day. So yeah, to be honest, I was told, we think that this horse is a little bit too experienced for you. Keep looking. It's only the first one that you've looked at, and so on. But my gut just kept on telling me, I think you've got to get this horse. Trying to ignore the fact that there was probably 50 other people that would have bought this horse as well the next day. So I ended up being the only one that looked at her. And I used my support network, and I said, look, I'm going to take responsibility. I know that not knowing much about this horse and me at where I'm at is that 2-3 months down the track, I could have made the worst decision, but I'm willing to wear that. However, I'm willing to put the work in. I always plan to continue getting lessons regardless of the experience of the horse I had. But yeah, it's like, right, I'm going to pay someone, invest in someone to do more work with this horse. I'm going to learn a lot more, and I am going to continue to get lessons, and, you know, whatever it takes, I'm willing to do that. But I just feel like that this is the right decision. So I looked at the horse one day on a Saturday, Sunday, and then had to make a decision Sunday night. And I ended up, if you're watching the video version of this, I put my the videos of my podcasts and interviews on YouTube, is that I use this crystal pendulum, which I lost for about 18 months, but I use it to help me make decisions, especially when it's like, oh, everyone else is going against me. My gut's a strong yes, but just using another tool to assist, which said yes to so many things. So I texted and I said, I'm going to do it. And I bought a horse on the 20th of March, which is just over 10 days ago. So absolutely crazy. But what was even funnier, so I was planting seeds, is that I was not a vision boarder, but I did one out of FOMO. I am now a vision boarder because, again, let me pull out this picture if you're looking. This is the picture of the horse on my vision board. And if you're just listening, this horse is the exact same coloring. It's not Dapple, but it's a buckskin. You know, the light skin and the dark mane. That is the picture of the two horses, one of the two horses that was on my vision board. And I turned my vision board around 3 weeks earlier because I thought, well, what if? Let's give it a go. FOMO. So I was like, this is funny. And I get lots of these kind of like serendipitous, coincidental things happening, seeing angel numbers. And that's always what tells me is, you know, things are in flow. So yeah, it just so funny how things have played out. So the other interesting thing that I wanted to share with you around that time that I bought this horse, which by the name, her name is Tilly, and she's 10 years old. Originally, I was going to go for an old horse, like a 20-year-old horse, and they generally live to 30, but you can't always ride them that long. I was going to go for an old, slow horse, but I like to learn things fast, and I probably would have gotten bored pretty quickly, and I didn't want to just buy a horse and pass it on soon after. So I thought 10 years old, still got plenty of time in her, and it's all about the relationship for me. So yeah, I went against a lot of the external stuff. We're going to wait and see, right, how this is going to play out. And I went with my gut, and I'm just so happy. But here I am, still very green on a horse. And it so happened that there was a Dromgoole natural horsemanship clinic on Thursday, 4 days after I bought this horse. And it was suggested to me that if I get this horse, that I go to the clinic. And I'd heard about natural horsemanship from various clients and people around the place, and it sounded amazing. But what's interesting, and why I wanted to share this particular story about buying the horse, is that all of a sudden, this is new in my world. I'm anxious. I want to be good at something and I'm not good at it. I don't want to fail. I don't want to be seen as not knowing things. And I don't want to look dumb. Remember, we're going to find that out down the track, right? And what I really loved is just the way Sam communicated to me. She said, no, I think it would be amazing. And I said, oh, do you think like I'm too green? I can't even remember how to do a girth up. I can't even remember how to stick a bridle on. When you asked me to catch the horse, I don't even know what that means and how to do it. But she was just so encouraging. And she told me about how her boyfriend got this free horse and total beginner and went to the clinic, and it was great. And said that if you're interested in building a relationship with the horse, then I highly recommend you go to this clinic. But here I am on the inside going, oh my gosh, who are the other people who are going on this? How experienced are they? What are they going to think of me? Blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, I'm thinking, wow, I'm buying this horse. This clinic only comes down to my town twice a year, and it's this Thursday, and my calendar is completely free. So I should probably do it. But that's where everything starts. There are parallels for everything in life and business, that you're going to start not knowing. You're going to want to know that you're good. You're going to want to know that it doesn't fail. You're going to want to know that you don't look dumb, and you're going to want to know that people aren't going to judge you. But the reality is that all of these things could happen. And I was thinking, I'm going to go get lessons and get better before I go to this clinic. But my gosh, I'm so glad I went to this Dromgoole clinic. It was incredible. The horse was brought down for me. It stayed there for 3 days. It was a beautiful location, and it was 10 minutes down the road from my house. And I just learned so much. And what was really interesting is on this clinic, again, there's lots of parallels to the work I do on the emotional level. And I love being around that space when people can talk at that level. And we did some dream planning or visioning. And I shared about how the picture that I had on my vision board is very similar coloring horse to what Tilly is. It's just all the same, different level. And yeah, I am so glad I went, because over the 3 days, I just learned so much about myself, Tilly, space, boundaries, everything that we need to just move through life, discipline, holding the boundaries, being consistent. And I felt so much more comfortable on this horse. And everyone that was at this clinic, there was, I think it was 4 or 5 other people, were just lovely and so welcoming as well. So to think that if I got caught up in myself and what I thought about myself, I probably would have missed out on this great opportunity. And I would have talked myself out of and missed out on a great opportunity to get off to a good start with building a relationship with my horse. So I'm really grateful for the encouragement from Sam, who is actually, I've decided to keep Tilly with her for another 4 to 6 weeks. She is an intern at the Dromgoole clinic, so she knows how I'm meant to be riding and what I'm meant to be doing and the aids that I'm meant to be using, and so that we can both stay consistent. So she's going to work the horse for me, and it takes me an hour to drive down there and do a couple of hours of lessons, which is really cool. And then when maybe, when we're both feeling more comfortable, hopefully in 4 or 6 weeks, then I will move her back to Wanaka and she will live with all the other horses. And that'll just be 5 minutes down the road and I'll be able to go and ride her more regularly. But I just learned so much about building a relationship with a horse. And as I said earlier, I was thinking, oh yeah, the girls at the equestrian center, they can train her and do stuff, and I can just go down and ride her and do the odd lesson. But now I want to go down there every day and do stuff with her and build a relationship with her so that she knows who I am. So I'm so looking forward to that. It's all still so new. I plan on having my lessons twice a week at the moment. But what I found interesting about this is how I have made the time. Again, I have created a lot of space and freedom in my week, my day, my month, and hopefully my year. And it's trusting that when we create the space is not to all of a sudden go and fill it, but that more good stuff will come in. So I had the space to go to the clinic. I have the space to ride a horse now, something that I desire to do that brings me lots of joy and pleasure and lots of smiles on my face. And I just realized that, gosh, it takes me an hour to get down to where she's staying at the moment. It takes me an hour to get back, and I usually will ride for a couple of hours. Is that, my gosh, that's 4 hours out of my day. And I want to do this twice a week. That's 8 hours out of my week. But I so want to do it. And I'm passionate about it. And when we love something, we will find the time and we will find the energy to do these things. And I believe that a lot of the work and intention and energetic work that I've done, the emotional work that I've done on myself and with others, that all that work has been worth it because it's led me to this place. And sometimes when we're in the muck of it all, when we're in the midst of the challenge, the fears can come up of, is this worth it? Is it going to work? What is this going to lead to? So that's why I love to share my stories, and I love to have other people share their stories of where were they versus where are they now, knowing that everything that you do right now from here on in is going to lead you towards your desires and dreams. And I know that might seem so unattainable for some of you right now, but do it out of FOMO. Do a vision board. I am now going to be an avid vision boarder. I have marked some photos, and I've actually got it on my to-do list today to work on my vision board and make it far more intentional. Because if this horse can come into my life that quickly, then anything can happen. So maybe a house is next on the cards, and I will be dropping a podcast on that time we bought a house. Who knows? The house might have a paddock now. What else do I want to share with you about this? It was around the decisions, a gut feeling, a desire, a vision, but also it is so interesting being put back in a place where I am completely new, completely green, but knowing that I'm not going to get better at horse riding by just thinking about it. I've got to do something about it. It was funny, actually. I celebrated with my wonderful coaches who work in many of my spaces and groups with me, Ania Volovic and Cole Bombino. And Ania wrote back saying, wow, is this like a custom New Zealand pet? I'm like, no, it's not normal to just like go and buy a horse like it is a dog, a cat, or a goldfish. So yeah, I know it's pretty out there. I don't recommend you go make rash decisions. Like I have shared quite a few times about how I am a quick decision maker, but where that comes from in me and my personality type. But yeah, I'm on the journey of being nervous and green. But my dreams and aspirations is to be able to go on a little trek on my own or go with other people who I don't need to rely on to look after me, and to take my horse down to the lake and go for a swim. I'd love to go on beach rides. I don't have any aspirations for competitions or performances. I just want to trek, don't want to jump things. I just want to cruise around on this horse. I'd love to do little stints of cantering as well. So that is where I'm at. I do also need to focus on healing this ankle, and it feels like the ultimate pleasure to be able to have this horse and ride it. But I am in an interesting position with my ankle. It's not painful. I can ride. Don't really want to fall off. but also recognizing that there's an element of walking on your own 2 feet when you go trekking. So I'll probably share more on social media about my ankle. I shared the earlier stages of all of the things I was doing to help it. As I said earlier, I was coached on what if this ankle had to do with your ability to receive pleasure and allow pleasure into your life, which I'd have to say I was making conscientious effort around, but I now reflect and go, I probably wasn't doing enough. So my mental state is good. I'm navigating it. I am seeing a sports doctor. I had a CT scan. I'm getting an MRI. I've had a DEXA scan. It's a little bit unusual as to why it hasn't healed. I did start walking on it after 3 weeks, but I was told, and I did feel good about walking on it after 3 weeks. It is the type of fracture that actually they often don't cast it if there is no pain, and it's very much dictated by pain. So I have a little bit of healing, and I've spent a lot of money on trying to do everything under the sun. I've just purchased a bone stimulator. It's yet to arrive, and I'm going to try some shockwave on it as well, which is not very comfortable, to see if I can stimulate the bone. But I am open, but I'm not putting a lot of intention on it, that this possibly will need surgery. But it's definitely made me reflect on, although I don't have pain and my function's pretty good, I can feel it more than I did in the first 8 weeks. And I also know that my foot's not 100% right. So I'm about to go and get orthotics as well to help. And yeah, get an opinion from a conservative surgeon, but trying to do everything on the physical and emotional and otherwise emotional and energetic level to heal my ankle naturally and avoid surgery. But just on this, as I wrap up, it is interesting because it's like, wow, my ankle was really functioning well before. Why didn't I start horse riding 2 years ago and trekking 2 years ago? So sometimes we hit crisis points. Sometimes we have the challenges that make us realize what we did have and what we could have maybe made the most of in the time in the past. We can't relive the past, but what we can do is change our attitude and our ability to make decisions for ourselves in the future. Oh gosh, another tangent that always comes up when I am talking live and in the moment is that another friend who might be listening to this podcast, who I really love and respect and receive a lot of advice from, was recommending that I go and buy a house. And I was like, I want to buy a horse. And I actually kept it secret from her for about a week, but I sent her a message the other day and she was happy and she was celebrating. We've had a chat about the horse. Is that, to me, yeah, obviously we need a house to live in, and a home, safe space and a shelter, but we're really happy and we're relatively secure in our rental property, unlike most people who might have to shift. And I know the house is coming. And I want to live experiences now, not later, because my ankle has been a good representation of that, is that, you know what, we never know what is going to happen. And maybe we realize that we had all the opportunity and we should have made the opportunities available to ourselves then. So my question and thing that I would love you to ponder on is, what is something that you have desired to do, create, to have, or to experience that you keep pushing aside, that you keep saying that you will do another time, and before you know it, it's been a couple of years? I never got the opportunity to go for a horse ride with my beautiful friend Kate. So what is it that you could do now? It doesn't have to be something that you need to do regularly. Like for me, it just started off with one massage, and it started off with monthly massages, and then it became weekly massages. I've now replaced the massages with a horse and horse riding. But what is it that you desire, that you know would bring you joy, would bring you pleasure in your life and bring a smile on your dial, that you are not doing for yourself? And can you do me a favor? Can you go and do that thing just once, whatever it might be? And I am always up for a celebration. Even if I don't know who you are, you can send me a message on Instagram. You can send me something on Facebook, or if you're in my free group, celebrate in there. I would love to hear what you're doing for yourself that will bring you more pleasure and joy in your life.